Parshas Noach. Parshas Noach is introduced actually at the end, the very end of last week's Parsha, Parshas Bereshis, in Perek Vav Posek in 6:5. The Torah says, "Vayar Hashem ki rabah ra'as ha'adam ba'aretz." Hashem saw that the evil man was great on the earth. V'chol yetzer machshavos libo rak kol hayom, and that every design of his heart's thoughts was only evil all day long. So it appears that the fate of man was sealed because he was constantly preoccupied with evil. His heart, his mind, was filled with evil all the time, to the point that man was incapable of being redeemed, and therefore Hashem saw fit to destroy the entire world with the exception of Noach and his family. Now we know that for Noach and for mankind after Noach, there's a happy ending, which is that Noach is saved, his children are saved, they procreate, and they restore humanity to the earth. And the cherry on the top is that Hashem says he's not going to destroy the world ever again. This is in this week's Parsha, Noach, in Ches Chaf Aleph, that's 8:21. Vayar Hashem es reach nichoach, vayomer Hashem el libo. And Hashem smelled the soothing fragrance. And Hashem said to himself, that was of the sacrifices. And Hashem said to himself, Lo osif lekalel odes ha'adama bavur ha'adam. I will never again curse the ground on account of man. Now, here's a familiar phrase. Ki yetzer leiv ha'adam ra minu urav. For the designs of man's heart are evil from his youth. V'lo osif od lakosis kol chai kasher osisi. And I will never again smite all life as I have done. Okay, let's listen to this phrase. We're going to focus on this. Why not destroy the world? Ki yetzer leiv ha'adam ra minu urav. Because the yetzer, you could say the designs, the force of the contemplations of the heart or the mind of man is evil from his youth. Evil from his youth. And what did we say in the introduction at the end of Parshas Bereshis? And all of the thoughts, all of the designs of the heart's thought were only bad all day. So what's the difference between the two? It's particularly perplexing because the verse we just read is an introduction to the destruction of the world as we know it. That is, it's cited as apparently the reason for the destruction is that man was just thinking bad thoughts all the time. There was nothing good. There are some Mepharshim who say that every individual has a Yetzar Tov and a Yetzar Ra. And I mean, everyone says this, but some Mepharshim say that what it means here is that even the Yetzar HaTov was used for Ra. How do you do that? Well, when you think of Rashi on B'chol Levavcha, it says, V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha, B'chol Levavcha, you should love the Lord your God with all of your leiv. Leiv is heart, and it means mind. You should love God with all your mind, with all of your heart. And Rashi says there that B'chol Levavcha could have been written B'chol Libecha. Rashi doesn't say that. He says B'chol Levavcha. Why does it have two letters Beis instead of one? To signify the two Yetzers, the two inclinations, the Yetzar Tov and the Yetzar Ra. And he says you can use the Yetzar Hara for good. How do you do that? He says Shekina Sofrim Tarba Chachma. That jealousy among scholars will increase wisdom. What does that mean? That means if you see that somebody is accomplishing and doing great things in study and mitzvos and other things, then you say, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it too. Not that you're using this notion of this competitive notion to defeat the other person, but rather to be inspired by the other person. So that's how you can use what otherwise would be a destructive force, the Yetzer Hara. You can use that, the beginnings of that Yetzer, for Tov. And here, say some Mepharshim, that when it says rak koyom, only evil, it means that even the Yetzar Tov was used for evil. How can you use the Yetzar Tov for evil? Well, you can, for example, be filled with mercy on a murderer. Are you being a good person by having mercy on a murderer? Not at all. The Midrashim are filled with this. That somebody who has pity on a mercy on a cruel person will himself become cruel. We see this a lot, where people are wrong-headed in their kindness, and they treat people who are destructive in society, and they treat them kindly in a way that it enables further destruction or enabling other bad behaviors. It all flows from a Yetzer Hatov, a sense of wanting to be kind and to do good things. But if you do good things to the wrong people, you enable evil. So apparently, according to these Meforshim, man was beyond redemption because of his evil thoughts. How is that different from what our verse says in chapter 8, Perek Ches, Pasuk Chaf Aleph, where the justification that the Almighty gives for never destroying the world again is Ki Yetzer Lev HaAdam Ra Minu Urav, because the designs of the heart of man is evil from his youth. Now, it's not identical. The verse is not identical, but it does imply that there's an inherent evil streak in man. And not that is the cause for destruction, but rather that is the cause for God's promise not to destroy. Why would that be? My Rabbi Rav Ahron Soloveichik said that there's a distinction between this description of evil and the description of the thoughts of evil of man in Parshas Bereshis. Parshas Bereshis, people were so steeped in evil that there was no way out. There was simply no way out. They were completely consumed, you might say, as an ideal. Here, however, it's Yetzer Lev HaAdam Ra Minu Urav, from his youth. What does that mean, from his youth? Rav Ahron explained that there is the singular characteristic of youth is imitation. That's how children learn to speak. That's how I'm speaking English right now and you're understanding English, because I imitated the people around me who spoke, and you imitated the people around you who spoke, and you learned how to speak English. If we both grew up in China, unless we specifically took English, we wouldn't understand this. Instead, we'd be speaking Chinese. Why? Because we imitate. And we dress certain ways, and we walk certain ways, and we even have certain attitudes because we imitate. So imitation is itself can be a good thing. It can cause us to develop. It can also be a bad thing. As many a mother was known to say to a child who protested, well, everybody else was doing it. Well, if everyone would jump off the roof, would you do that too? And that's the challenge of growing up. And that's the challenge of maturity. And we're not talking chronologically here. There are plenty of people who grow up, but they still need to imitate. And this is, to a large extent, the fashion industry depends on our desire to imitate. But somebody who's going to develop a moral sense has the ability to distinguish himself from the crowd and to identify, to analyze, and to come to a conclusion when the crowd is wrong. Now, in our day, right now, there's a lot of that going on, and some of us are quite confused. It's especially confusing when you don't know exactly what the facts are. But at the end of the day, the critical point is doing the right thing, doing God's will. We need imitation to get us to a point of competence. And then we need to break free of imitation and to be able to think on our own and to analyze on our own and not to follow the trends, whether they're fashion trends or sociological trends or trends of morality or any other trends of the society. We are obligated to think on our own, to think analytically, to consult with people whose judgment we trust, and to fashion a plan for how we will act once we distinguish ourselves from others and understand that we and only we are responsible for our decisions, for our choices, and for paving the way of our own lives. Have a good Shabbos.